Okay, so I have my nice slab that I've done on my slab roller, and I'm just going to run over the surface with a rubber kidney and smooth away the texture of the canvas that I have on my slab roller, but also compress the surface of the clay to try and minimize any cracking that might occur in the kiln. Now this clay is really, really wet and very soft, so it drags as I'm doing this in places. So I need to smooth, and when I'm handling this clay I need to be very careful because it will stretch really easily. Okay. Now because it's going to stretch, I'm going to lift using the fabric that it's on, lay it on across the whole of my arm, make sure I've got no creases under the fabric to flip it over. And then smooth the other side as well. So because I'm making multiples of this, I made myself a little former just from some discarded bits of drying clay that I had at the time, and I just shaped it into the kind of shape that I wanted, and then I'm going to cover it with a bit of, this is compostable bags, and I'm going to cover it and tape it underneath, just so that the water from the clay doesn't start sticking it or reactivating the former thing. You could fire if you didn't make it from old bits of clay. I'd be worried about firing it and this breaking apart on me. If you made it more deliberately, you could make one and then bisque fire it. Do know that it shrinks in the kiln, and make allowances for that. If you make a former, this is about the size I want my pieces at this point in the building. So if I was going to bisque fire this, I'd have made it a little bit bigger. Okay, my slab is now prepared. So I'm just gonna cut this up into grid shapes. And because it's that square shape, I'm just gonna grid this off. Now I need to leave enough around the former to do the edges, so that there's enough to roll down at the sides. But I don't need to be particularly accurate or precise with this, because I'm going to trim them. I will just take the rough top edge off there. So I've gotten 7 squares out of this. So here's the covered mould. Okay, I'm just going to take one of the squares that I cut earlier, and I'm going to put it over the top. Make sure it's kind of evenly positioned, and then just press gently around, particularly around the corners. trim any excess. And then I'm going to take this away and dry it. Okay, it's a bit drier now, so I should be able to peel the mould out the bottom, and it still holds its shape. Now I'll set this aside and leave it to settle a bit and dry off a little bit more while I now repeat. Okay, so now I have my 7 formed around the former. I'm just going to trim these edges to neaten everything up. I'm using a scalpel, but you can use any kind of sharp blade and just trim around. Try and keep as level as you can. If you want to make sure it's properly level, you can mark first. So you can go around and make sure that everything is all level. And then I just tend to run around the edges with my fingers to tidy everything up a bit, and then once it's dried off a bit, I will go over with a damp sponge as well around this edge and make sure that everything is tidy. So again, I'm going to now do the same thing for the rest. I tend to do the same step on repeat when I'm doing multiples rather than doing one at a time. I find it makes it quicker for me, but that might not be the case for everybody or for everything that you're making. It can be different depending on what you make. But there we go, that's the base of that soap dish. So now I'll do the same again on repeat. I'm finding the lowest point generally as well, so that I know how far down I need to cut around the edge to make sure it's all fairly even and neat. Okay, so I've trimmed all of the soap dish bodies. So now I'm going to make some little feet, and I just do ball feet for my soap dishes. Each one has 4 feet. Again, if you want to be precise with the size of the feet, you can make sure you've got the same weight of clay for each foot, but given I'm trying to do things really quickly, I tend to just do feet and then set them into sets of 4 that are roughly the same. Okay, so I'm going to put the feet in the corner of each of the soap dishes. So I've turned them all over and I'm just going to score on the bottom where the feet are going to go. I'm also going to do the holes in a heart shape. So I'm just going to score in the middle here, and that's where I'm going to put my maker's mark, my little stamp. So I'm going to do that for all of them. Okay, and then for the feet, I'm just going to score on the bottom, pop a bit of slip on, and then gently pressing the two slip pieces together. Give it a bit of twist, and then you should feel it grab so it doesn't slide so much anymore. And that is when the foot is in place. So we do that for each foot. On each of the soap dishes. Okay, so I've let my soap dishes now dry off a little bit so they're a bit sturdier. I'm now going to mark in the heart shape because I'm going to cut the holes in a heart shape for these ones. And I'm just going to very lightly draw the shape that I want for the heart, and then I'm going to use this to guide where I cut the holes. So I have a hole cutter that got a pointed shape so I can cut holes of different sizes depending on how far I push through. So if I push all the way so that this is touching the head of the whirler, then the holes will all be the same size. I try to be symmetrical to a certain degree so that there's the same number of holes on either side. There we go. And now I'll just tidy up where I drew the heart shape in. Just get rid of that to leave the holes. And then all that's left after that is the final tidy up with a damp sponge. You'll end up with a few little extra bits on the holes that may need a bit of extra tidying, but at this point we can tidy all of it so we can go around all the edges as well. If you want to make sure the holes are nice and open, we can use a round tool and push it through. Something like the end of a paintbrush that's the right kind of size. Or a tool, something like that, can work quite nicely. Try not to leave any raised edges around the holes, because the point of the holes is to drain water away. So we don't want it lifted up to put a boundary in the way of the water. It needs to drain freely. You can also press down slightly where the holes are to make them the lowest point so that they are good for draining. And do a final tidy, smooth with fingers. And we're all done for that one. Now it's just a case of repeat. Okay, so that's all of the soap dishes all made now. So those are the 7. I've made a further 5 as well. I need 10 in total, so I've made 12 in case of problems with the glazing or cracking or anything in the firings. So I've got a couple of spares. If they work, then that's great because it gives me a couple I can sell. If not, then hopefully I will have 10 good ones that I can pass on. So next up they'll be bisque fired, and then I'm going to glaze them with a white glaze with a blue glaze over the top just on the edges, and then they'll be all finished and ready to go. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you found that useful and you enjoyed the tutorial. If you found that handy, I do have an online membership where I have other videos and slightly longer videos and more complicated builds on there. I also have some video tutorials online that are for sale from my website as well. So if you fancy something a little bit more challenging, then feel free to go check out my website. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.